Welcome dear students, I am Dr. Pratyusha and in this video let us learn about vasomotor rhinitis. The speciality of vasomotor rhinitis is it resembles allergic rhinitis in all aspects but it is not allergic rhinitis. So let us see what are its similarities with allergic rhinitis and what makes it different from allergic rhinitis. Okay, vasomotor rhinitis. What are the common symptoms of nasal energy? It is nasal obstruction, rhinorrhea, sneezing is the most cardinal feature. All of these clinical features are present in vasomotor rhinitis also. One of them might be most predominant, but they are all present and still it is not allergic rhinitis. Why do we say it's not allergic rhinitis? Because the pathophysiology is different. Plus, any of the tests that you do for allergic rhinitis will be negative in this patient, such as no high IgE levels, eosinophil count is normal, and when you do a skin test to identify allergens, they are also all normal. So, it's clear that it is not allergic rhinitis. Now, let us see what's exactly happening in vasomotor rhinitis. First, if I write its definition, it is non-allergic rhinitis that simulates allergic rhinitis. In terms of clinical features. Okay, so what is the pathogenesis of this condition, which is mimicking allergic rhinitis but is not allergic rhinitis? Now, before we understand that, first please understand the fact that the nasal mucosa has a rich blood supply and the vasculature has venous sinusoids or lakes which are surrounded by fibers of smooth muscles. So there is a lot of control. Whenever these smooth muscles contract, they act like sphincters and they control the filling up and emptying of these blood sinusoids. Whenever there is engorgement, we find features of congestion, and whenever they are emptied by the smooth muscle action, there is free flow of air and the patient feels comfortable. And all this mechanism is under the control of autonomic nervous system. That's where the pathology of vasomotor rhinitis lies. Sympathetic stimulation will cause vasoconstriction and shrinkage of mucosa. And parasympathetic stimulation will cause vasodilation and engorgement of vessels. This basic fact must always be borne in mind. Sympathetic stimulation causes vasoconstriction and parasympathetic stimulation will cause vasodilation. This is the key point of vasomotor rhinitis. Parasympathetic causes vasodilation and engorgement of vessels. And when there is engorgement, the patient experiences these symptoms of stuffiness, rhinorrhea, excessive secretions. These are all observed. So, overactivity of the parasympathetic system will cause excessive secretion from the nasal glands. All the glands are also under autonomic control, as you know. So, autonomic nervous system is under the control of hypothalamus. So, emotions play a great role in vasomotor rhinitis. And an unstable autonomic nervous system is the root cause for all the problems that the patient is experiencing. And this unstable autonomic nervous system, especially in the nasal mucosa, it is hyperactive and it responds to all sorts of non-specific stimuli. There is change in temperature, there is change in humidity or some small amount of dust or smoke, the nasal mucosa immediately gets hyperactivated with the parasympathetic overactivity causing hypersecretions. and nasal stuffiness and watering of the nose. This is the pathophysiology of vasomotor rhinitis. And I hope you have understood that it is completely different from allergic rhinitis, although the final symptom complex is same. Let us look at the clinical features now. The symptoms include, first and foremost, paroxysmal sneezing, causeless sneezing, seen in allergic rhinitis also. And these patients have this paroxysmal sneezing just after getting out of the bed in the morning. They wake up in the morning and they have a bout of sneezes. Okay. Second is excessive rhinorrhea. We know why. Why? Because of the increased secretions. And this could be the most predominant symptom. And those secretions are watery and very severe, and they might actually wet several tissue papers. And the nose may even drip when the patient leans forward. The secretions are so heavy and severe. It might resemble CSF rhinorrhea also. The secretions are that severe. But it is, of course, not CSF rhinorrhea. So this is the most important and most bothersome complaint for the patient. Next is nasal obstruction. Why is there nasal obstruction or nasal stuffiness? One, because of these heavy secretions, and second is because of the engorgement of vessels. Engorgement of vessels and the mucosa itself will lead to nasal obstruction. And this nasal obstruction is more marked in the night, and that too to whichever side the patient is sleeping. On the dependent side, the nose gets blocked. And finally, there is postnasal drip, which is also because of excessive secretions. Next, the signs. When you observe the nasal mucosa of the patient, what we commonly see is congestion. Because of the engorgement of vessels, there is congestion, and hypertrophy of turbinates could be seen. It slightly resembles the picture that is seen in hypertrophic rhinitis. And in some patients, the nasal mucosa could be absolutely normal. That's also possible. Now let us look into the complications. If at all it's a long-standing case of vasomotor rhinitis, the patient could develop nasal polyps and also hypertrophic rhinitis and sinusitis. When the nose is constantly filled with these hypersecretions, it's possible that the ostia of sinuses get blocked and infection occurs in that region, and hence sinusitis can occur. These are the complications seen in vasomotor rhinitis in long-standing cases. So how do we treat? Investigations, whatever investigations you perform for allergic rhinitis will generally be negative, because based on these clinical features, we tend to perform those investigations and realize that they are all negative, and that gives you a suspicion that this could be vasomotor rhinitis. So let us move into the treatment part. Our first aim is to reduce the symptoms, and for that, the hyperactive nasal mucosa, which is responding for all the non-specific stimuli, to control it, the first and easiest way is avoidance of triggers. Avoidance of triggers. We do the same thing for allergic rhinitis also. The patient has to identify his or her own triggers, which could be as simple as a change in temperature or some mild exposure to dust. And the patient has to avoid these physical factors which are provoking the symptoms. Next, antihistamines and nasal decongestants. These provide symptomatic relief. They will relieve the nasal obstruction which is caused due to hypersecretions. They will also relieve the sneezing and rhinorrhea. And then we can also give topical steroids. These are used as sprays or as nasal drops, and they are also very much useful in controlling the symptoms. In very severe cases, we can prescribe systemic steroids, but for a very short period of time, and of course this line comes with all its statutory warnings. It has to be tapered off properly and it has to be under monitoring, and all the precautions have to be taken care, and even then it has to be prescribed only for a short period with necessary precautions. Only when the symptoms are very severe and not being controlled with decongestants and topical steroids. And then psychological factors have to be removed. Why is this important? Because the autonomic nervous system, as I've already told you, is under the control of emotions. So these psychological factors have to be addressed for the patient to be relieved from the symptoms. In spite of doing all this, if there is no proper relief to the patient, then we have to go for surgical management. Because of repeated episodes of rhinitis, there could be turbinate hypertrophy which can cause permanent nasal obstruction. Now, the nasal obstruction that is occurring because of turbinate hypertrophy will not be relieved by decongestants or steroids. And in those cases, we have to surgically reduce the size of nasal turbinates, just like what we do in hypertrophic rhinitis. Surgical reduction of the size of turbinates. Now, so far, if you have observed, in all our management, we have never addressed the actual root cause, that is parasympathetic overactivity or autonomic imbalance, unstable autonomic nervous system. If we address it, it is the ultimate solution, as radical as it might sound, but it has to be done in some very severe cases where there is no other solution, that is Vidian neurectomy. Vidian neurectomy is the final solution in patients where nothing else is working. What is Vidian neurectomy? Sectioning of the parasympathetic secretomotor fibers. Sectioning of parasympathetic secretomotor fibers to the nose. This will definitely reduce the excessive rhinorrhea that has not been corrected by medical therapy, which was so bothersome to the patient. So this is all about vasomotor rhinitis. It's a simple and straightforward topic where all the clinical features resemble allergic rhinitis, but it is not allergic rhinitis. The treatment to some extent overlaps with that of allergic rhinitis, but drugs such as anti-IgE and specific immunomodulator therapy that is used in allergic rhinitis has no place in vasomotor rhinitis. As far as antihistamines, nasal decongestants and steroids are concerned, the treatment overlaps. And the final solution, surgical solution for long-standing cases of vasomotor rhinitis not relieved by medical therapy, one is reduction of the size of turbinates, and finally Vidian neurectomy can be performed. So this is about vasomotor rhinitis. Thank you very much.